Welcome to the Hmong Peeps Show, the one and only show that brings you ordinary people sharing extraordinary insights. Well, maybe. Here is your host, Chew Effin Lee.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Hmong Relationships. This is Chew. Today I wanted to dig into the topic of morals and values. Now, when I worked with a lot of Hmong families providing therapy to them, I saw that there was a lot of conflicts between parents and their children, and even conflicts between, parents themselves, the mother and the father, and also, of course, siblings, conflicts between siblings and amongst siblings. So it all boiled down to morals and values. Now, morals and values, to me, there's no right or wrong moral or value, but it becomes wrong to me, in my opinion, when you start imposing it onto others. Now, when we were little kids, we didn't know what morals and values were, but we started to, adapt to it and also learn to build our morals and values based on how we were raised by our parents or our guardians. And we didn't really know how to question the morals or values. Sometimes when we tried to, I can't speak for everyone, but for me, when I tried to, I got a good ass whooping from my parents, and that's just kind of how things went back in the days, But, we didn't really question morals or values until we probably, became more mature. Hopefully, the age range would be right around 18, or maybe 16 to 18, and older. But when I worked with these families, that was one of the biggest, problems that the families were dealing with. You had parents who had morals and values that they grew up with when they were in Laos or Thailand, and then now they're in this country. They're trying to impose those values onto their children who are growing up here or were born here, and they watch TV all the time. And now TV, the media, is also a huge influence on how one's person's values or morals are shaped. And it could be dangerous, it could be good, depending on how what you expose your children to, I guess, because exposure to these media content can significantly influence someone's morals and values. And again, I am not in a position to really say what's right or wrong. There's really no right or wrong morals or values. It's just depending on what resonates with you or what aligns with you. Now, for couples, for those of us who are married or are in a relationship, we think about morals and values as what the other person that we're attracted to, like what do we align with in regards to that other person. And it's interesting, when you think about how you first start to get to know each other, you're in that dating phase, and a lot of us we give our partner passes when their morals and values don't align with ours, right? It doesn't bother us as much when we're in that dating phase, but then when we get married, that's when things start to bother us. And let me be clear, when we get married, I'm sure that our morals and values don't always stay the same, even though we might get influenced by whatever is around us or happening in our lives at the time. Some of us are able to just be very, very conservative and stick to the morals and values that were put on to us by our parents. But some of us, as we get older, our morals and values start to change. Now, change is something that is very difficult for some people. They don't like change, they don't want change, and when it happens, it's very tough for them to deal with. But for these, when we think about these relationships, again, we give passes to our partners when we're in the dating phase, and even for some folks when they have like a very toxic relationship when in the dating phase, we see how some relationships play out where it could be very violent, it could be very unhealthy, and that's when the morals and values have finally taken its course as far as like clashing. Because I'm sure we all know somebody who is probably in an abusive relationship right now, whether they're married or not. And if that person is able to build enough courage to leave that relationship, then I would suggest that they do. But the root cause of the conflict in that relationship or marriage is due to, and this is not the only reason, but this has a lot to do with the conflict. It's because somebody is trying to impose their morals or values to the other person, and they're just not aligned. The morals and values are just not aligning anymore. So that causes a lot of friction in relationships and marriages. Now, when we think about how to get away from this whole imposing morals and values, I think it's very simple. We should use that golden rule. Just respect people. Just don't judge them. They are who they are. We can't really change them, but what we can change is whether or not we want to continue to be associated with this person or continue to have a relationship or friendship with that person. And even in my family, as I put out more of these episodes, I'm going to be opening up my life to a lot of you guys out there who's listening to this. And I don't mind doing that because I think if we share our stories and experiences, it can be very healing to a lot of people and also healing to ourselves. So I don't mind doing that. So you guys will probably get to know a lot of personal things about me, and I don't mind sharing that with you as long as it's helpful. So anyway, an example is for me and my family. Maybe 3 or 4 years ago, my parents, they discovered this new religion. It was like a Hmong, it's like a traditional Hmong culture religion type deal, but it was more of a modified version. And my parents wanted us to be a part of it so bad. And we had a lot of family drama and conflicts because of them imposing those new religion beliefs and culture to us. And I said to my parents many times, I remind them, I tell them, when you guys go to your weekly meetings or sermons, whatever you want to call them, us kids, we don't say anything. As long as it makes you happy, then you guys go ahead and do it. And if you guys pay attention, we get along just fine as long as you guys don't bring that up and try to push that on us. And every time we did have a conflict, it was due to my parents saying, you guys have to come and join us. And if you don't, then you're not respecting us as your parents. Now, you have to keep in mind, at that time I was in my maybe mid-30s or early 30s. And it just didn't make sense to me, why my father and my mother would say those things to us and say, if you don't come and join this group with us, then it's you saying that you don't respect us as your parents, and it's going to look bad to the community. Well, if those of you who know me very well, I don't care about face. I don't care about saving face. I believe that if you make a mistake, it is a mistake, and if you learn to grow from it, then great, because the only way we can be better as human beings is to fail and to make mistakes and come back stronger, right? So anyway, so my parents and I, we never got along every time they brought up the whole religion piece and trying to impose that on us. And another example would be how, if you look at, and this is not for me, but what I've seen working with Hmong families, when we think about, for example, old men who, old Hmong men who go to Laos or Thailand to go screw around with young women over there, right? I have a personal strong bias about that, and again, that's just me. But in their eyes, it makes sense. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't agree with it, but in their eyes, and there as in those old Hmong men who choose to go do this, it makes sense for them to go do that. I've never understood it, and I don't think I ever will. But they grew up thinking and believing that they were supposed to, you know, as a man, you're supposed to find somebody who's very young, a woman who's very young, younger than the man. So while they're already in their 50s and 40s, they still have that mentality, which I don't understand. But and then we can also think about how in relationships, why do people have domestic, violence in their relationships or marriages? And it could be, again, morals and values are clashing. Maybe the man is saying, I'm the man, I need to be in control, and that's part of his moral or value about being in control. But maybe the wife is saying, it doesn't need to be like this. I need to be independent. I need to have freedom to do what I want. As long as I know where my heart is, then that shouldn't be an issue. But of course, when you think about her perspective and his perspective on how to be a partner, it just doesn't mesh well. It conflicts with each other's morals and values. So what I encourage you guys to do, so what I encourage you all to do is to think about relationships with people who you may have a lot of conflicts with, whether it be your partner or your family members, your parents, your children, and just ask yourself to see why you would impose your own morals and values on them. And vice versa, why would they impose their morals and values on you? Because when you guys don't talk about morals and values, or you guys don't impose it on each other, and you respect each other's morals and values, usually the relationships go smooth, or the friendship goes smooth. But then when it doesn't go smooth, that's when you should really take a step back and think about why there's conflict. And try, as easy as this sound, I know it's very difficult for everybody. It is difficult for me too at times, where I try very hard to catch myself when I'm talking to people, and see whether or not I'm imposing any of my own morals or values towards the person that I'm dealing with at the time. So it's a work in progress for a lot of us, but I think if we're good at being aware of when we're doing it, I think it's more helpful that we stop and just let it be. Again, we shouldn't focus on changing other people's values, because there's a lot of things that's wrong about that, in my opinion. But just know that even though you cannot change people's morals and values, you can still change whether or not you want to continue to be in that relationship or friendship with them. All right, so I hope you guys found that insightful. Leave me comments below this video, and I'll try to answer or respond to your questions or comments. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.